The streets of America echoed with a resounding message this past weekend: Elon Musk, no more. From the bustling streets of New York City to the sunny avenues of Hawthorne, California, hundreds of protesters gathered to voice their discontent with the tech magnate's growing influence on the government. The target of their ire, Elon Musk's controversial role in the Department of Government Efficiency, better known as DOGE. This newly formed department, spearheaded by Musk himself, has been tasked with the Herculean task of reducing the national debt and streamlining government operations. However, its ambitious cost-cutting measures have drawn sharp criticism from citizens and lawmakers alike, sparking a wave of protests across the nation. The protests mark a boiling point in the ongoing debate surrounding Musk's foray into the political sphere. Critics argue that his appointment as the head of DOGE grants him an alarming level of influence over government policies, despite not being an elected official. They express deep concern over the lack of transparency and accountability surrounding DOGE's operations, fearing that Musk's radical approach to governance could have far-reaching consequences for the nation. Meanwhile, supporters of Musk and DOGE applaud his innovative spirit and business acumen, arguing that he is the breath of fresh air that the government desperately needs. They believe that his private sector experience will bring much-needed efficiency and cost-effectiveness to the often cumbersome bureaucracy of the federal government. However, the growing number of protesters suggests that this perspective is not shared by all, raising questions about the long-term viability of Musk's role in the government and the future of DOGE. At the heart of the protests lies a deep-seated fear that Elon Musk's involvement in the government undermines the very principles of democracy. Critics argue that his appointment as the head of DOGE, a position that wields significant influence over government policies and spending, sets a dangerous precedent. They contend that allowing an unelected individual like Musk to shape the nation's future erodes the power of the people and their elected representatives. Furthermore, protesters express apprehensions about the lack of transparency surrounding DOGE's operations. The department's swift implementation of cost-cutting measures, including significant layoffs in various federal agencies, has raised eyebrows and fueled anxieties about potential conflicts of interest. Critics question whether Musk's personal financial interests, particularly his ownership of companies like Tesla and SpaceX, could influence DOGE's decisions, potentially prioritizing corporate profits over the well-being of the American people. The protesters' concerns extend beyond the issue of democratic representation. They also voice anxieties about the impact of DOGE's austerity measures on essential public services. The department's aggressive approach to reducing government spending has resulted in significant cuts to various social programs, including education, healthcare, and environmental protection. These cuts, argue the protesters, disproportionately affect the most vulnerable segments of society, further exacerbating existing inequalities and undermining the social safety net. The weekend saw a wave of protests sweep across the nation, with demonstrators targeting Tesla dealerships and SpaceX facilities as symbols of Elon Musk's corporate empire. In the heart of Manhattan's trendy meatpacking district, a group of protesters staged a sit-in at a Tesla showroom, chanting slogans like "Trump and Musk are traitors and nobody voted for Elon Musk." They held aloft signs bearing messages such as "Don't buy a swastika," "Make no mistake, this is a coup," "No dictators in the USA," and "Boycott Tesla," urging consumers to reconsider supporting Musk's businesses. Meanwhile, on the opposite coast, hundreds gathered outside SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California, expressing their discontent with Musk's growing political influence. The protest, organized by a coalition of activist groups, saw participants waving signs criticizing both Musk and former President Donald Trump, who appointed Musk to lead DOGE. Demonstrators called for greater transparency and accountability from both Musk and the government, demanding an end to what they perceive as an undemocratic power grab. The protests were not limited to Tesla and SpaceX facilities. Demonstrations also took place outside government buildings and public squares in cities across the country, reflecting the widespread nature of the discontent surrounding Musk's role in the government. From New York to Los Angeles, Chicago to Houston, the message from protesters was clear. They will not stand idly by as an unelected billionaire reshapes the nation's future without their consent. Elon Musk's foray into the political arena is not a recent phenomenon. The billionaire entrepreneur has long been a vocal advocate for his views on climate change, artificial intelligence, and government regulation, using his considerable platform to engage in public discourse and influence policy debates. However, his appointment as the head of DOGE marks a significant escalation of his involvement in politics, raising concerns about the undue influence of wealth and power in a democratic society. Musk's critics point to his history of substantial political donations as evidence of his efforts to shape the political landscape to his liking. Over the years, he has contributed millions of dollars to both Republican and Democratic candidates and causes, strategically aligning himself with those who support his vision of the future. His close ties to former President Trump, who appointed him to lead DOGE, further fuel concerns about his political motivations and the potential for conflicts of interest. Despite the growing chorus of criticism, Musk remains defiant, defending his role in the government as a necessary step to address the nation's pressing challenges. He argues that his experience in the private sector, particularly his track record of innovation and disruption at Tesla and SpaceX, makes him uniquely qualified to tackle complex issues like government inefficiency and the national debt. However, the wave of protests against him suggests that a significant portion of the American public remains unconvinced, setting the stage for a protracted battle over the role of wealth and influence in a democratic society.